Good evening, everyone. Well, that upper stage did crash on the moon. We have a before and after pic for you. Rocket Lab was awarded a $397 million contract. Not to be outdone, the EU is shelling out 18 billion euros for a satellite constellation plan. Company called Neuraspace, another one we haven't really heard much from, secured 15.6 million to scale AI-driven space traffic management. Kind of interesting. iSpace in Japan got a grant for precision landing tech for the lunar poles. India plans 300 satellites and a space station by 2035. SB claims China is ahead in the race to produce orbital data centers. In its first earnings report, SpaceX soars in revenues, still not technically turning a profit, but their stock went up a lot today. We like to do our crystal ball thing, for 5 and 25 years. Oh, forget that. Jared Isaacman hits his own crystal ball. He's looking 110 years ahead. And at the end, check out the first self-driving vehicle for Mars. All that, and our guest, Joshua Ahmed. From the news desk at the Center for Space Commerce and Finance, my name is Thomas Andrew Olson, and this is The Unknown Quantity. And as you know, this program is brought to you by the Center for Space Commerce and Finance. What do? We champion and strengthen emerging space startups and space adjacent enterprises worldwide through advisory, access, and advocacy. Our legendary pitch events and world-class boot camps fortify startups to be better investor ready. Now, in addition, this podcast, which has kind of become a crown jewel of our activities, is largely supported by our listeners and fans like you. So just go to cscf.space/support, click that Plain Stay Donate button, $10, $25, $50, $100 even. It's not a lot in the grand scheme of things, but it makes a big difference for us. And it's U.S. tax deductible. Don't forget to like and subscribe and tell your friends. Now, speaking of friends, my longest space friend ever, Michael Lane, who's been burning incense all afternoon, is here with us. So he probably smells really good. Maybe he'll come through the screen. How you doing, man?
I'm good. I wish it was incense. It's actually smoke because Mount Rainier is on fire.
Oh, so good.
Not as cool as you just described it, but that's what we got.
I'm glad. I'm taking it's just a regular fire and it's not erupting.
It's not erupting. That's all. Every day we live with that. No, they surpassed 300 acres already. I think it's moved under control, but then the other side of the Cascades, there's 25 fires. Some are big, some are small. Some of them were lit by arson. So I really, I have a lot to say about somebody who lights a fire on purpose.
A lot of going on. It's bad. It's just bad.
Dallas is asking an odd question. Why did I hear repeats during Tom's intro? I don't know what that means, Dallas, but I appreciate the comment. Could you send Sean kind of a detailed, are you getting echoes or are you, what does that mean? And I don't know the answer to that. So can you just send Sean
like this?
Yes, Sean is saying we did not hear that, so we don't know what you're talking about, Dallas. But thanks for the heads up. If there's a problem, we'd like to know about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. What's going on, man? Where do you want to start?
Let's dive the heck in. What do we? I'm going to turn this down just a little bit, just in case. And okay. Well, again, a SpaceX rocket crashed into the moon, and there happened to be a Korean satellite that got a picture of it.
Mm-hmm.
And on this thing, and you can see about the middle of the page, it's Korea Aerospace Research Institute, and on the left is the before, and on the right is the after, exactly the same spot. So that thing splatted and strewed stuff all over the place. Look at that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty neat. I think that's pretty neat. 5,400 miles. Is it miles? Kilometers.
Yep.
5,400 miles per hour. Yeah. So far as I know, they haven't been able to get any spectrographic analysis. Does anybody know different from that? That's what I saw
I do not.
Saturday.
Yeah.
I want them to get some spectrographic analysis. I hope that somebody in the world is pointing the right camera at that thing.
Yep. We need to get science, more science. You know, if you're going to throw a thing like that at the moon, get some science out of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's the plume. So NASA estimates the impact carved out a crater roughly 60 feet wide and 12 feet deep. I didn't think there was that much mass in the remains of that rocket. I was pretty surprised by that.
It's all about the speed.
Yeah. That's
because there are little tiny pieces of space debris floating around in Earth orbit, and if it's coming 17,500 miles an hour at you, and you're going towards it, you know, that impact does something tremendous, even though it only weighs like 7 grams.
Right.
You know,
yeah.
It's all about the motion.
Yeah. Well, fingers crossed that's not a normal thing. And it does make me wonder about the future of Blue Origin's missions to the moon, other SpaceX missions to the moon, Intuitive,
we have to dig up the history too. There must have been at least one Apollo era upper stage that got that far.
Yeah.
Or, I want to look that. I'm curious now. I want to look that up.
You know who might have that answer is Michelle Hanlon and her For All Moonkind archive.
Mm-hmm.
Dallas is saying maybe he caused it, but he'll tell Sean. So
okay.
Thanks, appreciate it. I don't know if anybody else heard a weird wobble. Jonathan did not. So
okay, cool.
Okay. All right.
Cool. Even better. Hey, now space and money. Here we are. Here's some money. Ready? Rocket Lab got a $397 million contract to build and launch flatelites. I love that term.
Yep.
For U.S. Space Force's Space-Based Airborne Moving Target Indicator Program. That is a mouthful, but so is $397 million. So, hey, I'll spout that mouthful all day long for that money.
Right. Yeah. We talked about this last week or the week before. Maybe it was Monday last week early. What I thought was really interesting was this photo of, they're calling it flatelites. That's kind of a lame-o term. I'm calling them IKEA sets because that tells the story, right? That tells the story. IKEA.
But there's no guy out there with that little, that little tool that comes with the IKEA thing, trying to screw that thing in, Yep.
The little wrench and the Allen wrench.
Little wrench.
Yeah. But I think this is super cool, and this is overdue tech as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
So they started working on this about last year. Remember when we had our first interview with Dr. Mark Levinson about the box, and we started talking about standardization? Beck and his team came out with the Flatellite IKEA sat just a few weeks after that conversation. So,
well, and that's what got spit out of Starship 13, essentially.
Similar.
Top of the arc, they were spitting out little flatellite things, like 20 of them.
Yep. New form factor, pretty cool stuff. $400 million. Good job, Rocket Lab. Barely moved their stock though. It's down.
Yeah.
So I don't understand the stock market anymore. I'm just gonna admit that I don't understand how they make the decisions that they make.
I know. No.
But cool. All right, moving on. Moving on. What
Not
else?
to be outdone, the EU is spending 18 billion for their own satellite constellation plan. I guess just a Spanish firm got a key role with them. And the first launches are slated for 2029. And so this is supposed to be the beginning of their answer to Starlink.
Right.
They call it Infrastructure for Resilience, Interconnectivity, and Security by Satellite, IRIS-2. And so I know IRIS-2, they just added a whole bunch of new satellites to that plan. Just the other day, they made an announcement about that, which I did not include here for obvious reason. But again, it's more about the sovereignty thing.
Yeah, I mean, how many times can you say sovereignty in the last year? The deal's tied to the commission reaching an implementation agreement with Space Rise Consortium, made up of operators of Eutelsat from France, Hispasat
Oh
in
yeah,
Spain, and SES Global in Luxembourg. Right?
that's why. Well, SES I figured, but Hispasat I know them too. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I got to tour Hispasat at ISU all the way back in 2008. Fascinating organization.
Yeah,
pretty neat stuff. Yeah.
okay.
Their ground station element, that's what Hispasat was doing, was a lot of ground station when I was there. Valued at $1.85 billion. So 10% of this thing is the ground station, which I think we never talk about ground stations enough.
Which isn't bad when you think of it. Only 10% of it is going to the ground station. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay.
I am going to point out one more thing on this super quick. They're going to very low Earth orbit, and I've been talking about VLEO for months now. I am convinced that VLEO is the ultimate destination, that all rocket companies will optimize for VLEO, because there's enough movement in the cyclers and the tugs to get things from VLEO to anywhere else, or out to Lagrange or the moon. I think that's the beginning of that optimization stack. So it's really kind of cool to see my crystal ball being accurate. So it's just the start of it, but I think it's there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, next up, and this is part of that sovereignty thing again. This outfit called Neuraspace. It's actually based out of Portugal, I guess. And they're a provider of AI-enabled space domain awareness and traffic management solutions. And they just got 15.6 million euros in new financing to do that further. And they're combining strategic private investment from Winds Capital, Explorer Investments, and Armilar Venture Partners, together with the funding awarded under Portugal's Recovery and Resilience Plan. So it's going to expand their AI platform, accelerate autonomous mission operations, increase its proprietary optical sensing infrastructure, and further develop Neuraspace DEF, their dual use capability supporting governmental and defense users. So there you go.
I am a little confused by this, because I think of the United States as being very, very dominant in space domain awareness. There's a language nuance here that some people don't understand. So space situational awareness is the phrase that you use if you're a civilian talking about what's around you, and space domain awareness is the phrase you use when you are in the military talking about the same thing. It was a phrase coined by now retired Lieutenant General Shaw, 3-star General Shaw. But I don't think of Europe at not at all when I think of space domain awareness. So I was pretty surprised when I saw
Yeah.
this. Uh,
I guess this sovereignty thing is just catching on everywhere. Let's see if we can get some money out of it too. And they did. So good for
well,
them.
you
And
kind of need to have a space force for space domain awareness to be legit. And are they going to sell their data to the US? Because who's the other buyer? This is something I do like, though. They're talking about the the rapid commercialization, revenue growth of 350% over the past year, which is great. The company monitors more than 600 satellites operated by commercial and institutional customers, including one of our favorites, Spire Global, Geosat, Nano Avionics, Cydia Space, and USpace, and the European Space Agency. So, I don't entirely understand what it is that they're doing that's different from other things. So,
but they have a fancy screen with a lot of fancy stuff on it, and it looks all cool and sciencey and techy.
Yeah, they do. I can make a very similar graph in about 45 minutes. So that, yeah,
with AI, bunch it up. Hey, there you go.
Yeah.
They could have done that. I don't know. Next up, real quick, and maybe somebody can figure out the exchange rate between yen and dollars. So iSpace got a grant for high precision landing technology in the lunar polar regions under phase 2 of the Space Strategy Fund program administered by JAXA. And so they want to have their own capability in this part for small payloads and deployment in the polar regions. And they got 11.6 billion yen for that. I guess the maximum grant amount is 20 billion. So 11.6 billion. That's still, I don't know what that is in millions of US dollars, but but they got a significant grant. They're going to do some interesting stuff, and they've been successful with the stuff they've been doing. So good for them.
Yep. The more people go to the moon, the better.
That's true. That's true. Love them on moon these days. India is not letting any grass grow under its feet. They say they plan 300 satellites and a space station by 2035. And they're going to launch most of the satellites in the next 5 to 6 years and then build the space station. So, so the chairman of ISRO, Dr. V. Narayanan, talked about this. They're doing the first uncrewed mission of their first human spaceflight program by the end of this year. And so they've evolved from depending on rockets and satellites from other countries, and now they launched 434 foreign satellites from 36 countries on a commercial basis using their own homegrown Indian rockets.
Yep.
So that was kind of cool.
I think it's really straightforward for them to get 300 satellites up. Their own space station as a sovereign station, fingers crossed, thumbs up. But given how fast they were able to build stuff for the moon, I'm going to give them about a 30% chance, maybe even a 50% chance. But a space station is harder than a set of satellites. So
it is. It is. As everybody else is finding out, that all the other guys that are building, space stations of their own.
Right.
It's not easy. And of course, as Joe Luttrell says, India needs to get back to launching first.
Yep. Get that part right. Get that part right for sure. Dallas, by the way, did say that there are some articles about somebody catching plumes and ejecta. So I will go look for that, Dallas. I appreciate that. Thanks.
Yep.
That's kind of important. So
okay. Next thing is just a little quickie. It was printed. I like this. It was printed in a publication called the European Conservative. I didn't know they existed. Honestly, I thought, okay, but they just published the story. They didn't write the story themselves. It's not an op-ed piece. There's a report actually published by the European Space Policy Institute. And they continue to weigh the development of orbital data centers, but they say Chinese institutions and companies are already moving towards implementation, and they have, and so they're winning the competition to produce these things. And they call the EU's laggard response, they may end up renting such facilities from China. So it's not a direct heads-up competition they're talking about between, say, China and the U.S. It's what the EU's coming up with. That may not work out for them.
Definitely, it might not work out for Europe. For sure, they're behind. But I would question this claim about. This is their quote. I'm just going to read it. This sluggish activity they're comparing to Europe. This sluggish activity compares unfavorably with just one Chinese startup, ADA Space, which, working with research institution Zhejiang Lab and outperforming its domestic competitors, deployed its first 12 satellites in May 2025. These devices are intended to form the first part of a proposed 2,800 strong network, all with orbital data center hosting capability. You know what? I would be hard pressed to believe that is better than what Starship launched just a few weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And so far as I know, the only thing that's gone up as real data centers are all just single chip tests.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think even somebody's put up a quad core satellite, let alone an actual data center. So this very much feels like agenda driven reporting. I'm very skeptical with what I'm reading.
And it's just Sean just posted in the background. He says, "Yeah, depends on your definition of an orbital data center."
Right.
That's not clear.
Right.
We don't know if we're on the same page with these guys or not.
We've had Philip on our show at StarCloud, and Ahmed, our guest, and I are going to go do a tour of StarCloud in a couple weeks at the end of the month.
Cool.
So super looking forward to that. But even the most advanced company in the world working on data centers has not got even a flying toaster up yet.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna have some skepticism about this article. Yeah. I do think Europe needs to get in the game because they are not in the game.
Okay.
So they are behind.
All right. We got 3 things to go, and I want to whip through them quickly. The first thing, we're going to talk about this next topic more anyway as the weeks go by because of all the cashing out that's going to be happening. But as of right now, SpaceX revenue is they had their first quarterly report.
Mm-hmm.
And so while revenue's way up, they haven't made a profit yet.
Yep.
But nevertheless, that didn't stop the stock from going to 138 today.
Right.
At the close. It got down 108 or something when we were talking about it.
108 is the lowest that I saw it at.
Yep.
That was Wednesday last week or Tuesday last week. Yep. What is this? Paul, I'm reading your stuff here. I'm writing a horror science fiction novella. Cool. Paul, I'm happy to chat with you. I'm very easy to find on the internet. LinkedIn, Lane at Liftport. Super easy to find me. Happy to chat with you about that.
Yep.
Cool. Okay. All right, we got one more.
Technically 2, but this one. We have this is I told you about we have our guests put on their 5 and 25 year hats. Well, Jared Isaacman decided, I'll hold my beer, and he's got 110 years is what he expects to see. And we don't have time to go through that in detail, but he did come up with some interesting stuff. He thinks the first thing is really important. Will make this possible is next generation propulsion, and of course the radioisotope thermoelectric generators they've carried on these missions. That's incredibly inefficient use of the energy potential. So nuclear tech is paramount for the future. And of course, the second tech is on mission compute and artificial intelligence. And so in 110 years, there's going to be a lot of robotic missions out there gathering so much data that we could probably, choke on it. Then he goes into what does NASA need to do to make that future possible. And of course, he raises the concern that NASA is at risk of being derailed by politics.
Sure, it's a fun read. It's worth taking a look at that. I don't think I would have done this interview not 110 years out, because there's no way you can possibly be right. But
right. It's
good on Isaacman. We like that guy.
It's like those guys that do the integrated space plan. I love those guys. They're very smart guys, but it doesn't pass the sniff test after about 20 years.
Right.
And they're going to year 2100. No. None of this. Past this point, just forget it. It's all up in the air. You don't know. Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right, Mars, quick.
Okay, yeah, last little thing. The first self-driving vehicle on Mars is a smashing success. And so the Perseverance is set a record for the most distance driven by any vehicle on another world. And so they celebrated a big thing, and I always like those pictures anyway, and it's great. And of course, my producer is like asking me to do something I should have done 20 minutes ago. Let's try this again. We're going to bring on our guest right now, but before I do, again, this podcast is our crown jewel, and it's supported by listeners like you guys. And so you can go to cscf.space/support and go ahead and click that donate button. It really helps us out a lot. And like and subscribe. And you got a big tax deduction, and it makes a huge difference for us. So at that point, let me introduce our guest. We start by asking the question, and actually Sean asked this morning on LinkedIn. He says, what does it take to turn ambitious space technology into a viable commercial opportunity? Well, our guest tonight is Joshua Ahmed, the founder of Real Engineers, name of the company, to discuss that company and the authentication services it provides to help entrepreneurs identify and verify qualified engineering talent. What did you call it, Michael? I think you called it.
I called it GitHub for hard tech. So yeah. I'll let actually Joshua tell that, because he's the one who told me that. So hey, Joshua, how's things?
Welcome to the program.
Hi there, guys. Good to be here. Thanks for having me. Yeah.
Okay.
Things are good, and that's the vision for my company, is to ultimately be a GitHub-like platform for hard tech. So, and when I mean hard tech, I mean like all the engineering disciplines that don't do coding. Like a mechanical engineer, for example, their main job isn't going to be in front of a computer writing lines of code. They're going to be designing a part that goes into a spacecraft, or almost anything when you take a look around. So a way for them to have GitHub-like capabilities and have all their stuff in one place.
Okay. Let's start. Give me 1 minute, just your background, your origin story. Yeah. How did you get to this place? Who are you? And also, what got you up that one morning that said, this is the thing I've got to do?
Yeah, the second part's a little longer story. So my name is Joshua Ahmed. The boring stuff, I have a bachelor's in mechatronics from University of California, Merced, a master's in systems engineering from SMU in Dallas, Texas. But the fun stuff is my main career. After 5 years, I worked for Lockheed Martin. I worked for the F-35 program. I did something called mission data engineering, which is like sensor fusion. How does the F-35 make sense of the world and make decisions in combat situations? Because ultimately, the F-35 is a robot with a pilot doing the final things, and that's really what makes it amazing. And so I did a lot of cool radar stuff. That was my main career for about 5 years. And then I moved here to Seattle, and I did military satellites, very similar in work, but for Boeing Defense and Space. And I did that for about 2 years. When at the end of it is when I had this idea and I decided to pursue it fully. As far as what got me into this was, it's a bit of a longer story, but it's really how the discrepancy between how it is to make sense of a software engineer and make sense of a non-software engineer. And when I first really helped with hiring, I had just gotten promoted. I remember, hold on, before a software engineer ever shakes my hand, I can figure out all these sorts of ways. GitHub being my personal favorite, but there's so many others like, like Kaggle, HackerRank, Carrot, and all these guys, where a software engineer say, you don't have to take my word for it. Here's proof. Right. And I haven't
here's
even
the documents. Here's the images. Here's the
here's
code I wrote.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And here's all the way. And I don't have to take their word for it. For mechanical engineers, and especially in my case for RF engineers, there was no equivalent. At best, someone could maybe make a portfolio if they took their time to do it. But even then, like the problem with mechanical engineers and all the other hard tech stuff, it takes a long time to make sense of it and really arrive to a conclusion that's good. So even if someone did take the extra step, it's still not reasonable to use that information in any practical sense. And that discrepancy led to something that's a much longer story that I was like, this is total nonsense. I can't believe, how come software people have this and we don't? And that was like the discrepancy that really made me wake up in the morning. It's like, maybe I can do something about
it. You're not just looking at space, though. You're doing aerospace, drones, robotics. You've got a whole set of hard engineering, real world product out there. So first of all, so not everybody on this call is going to know what GitHub is. So you have to start there when you make this comparison. So what does GitHub do that makes them useful? And then what are you veering off?
So GitHub primarily for software engineers. Its main service, though, is actually providing configuration management, how to manage your code, make edits, and keep it all nice and organized. That's the main value of GitHub to software engineers. It's called configuration control. But that's actually not the main part of my product right now, though I will hope to get there as my product continues to evolve. Right now, I'm very focused on the other values that GitHub really provides, which is a center place for your actual code. You don't upload your resume to GitHub, right? And it has all nice and neatly organized, where someone who doesn't know you can come in and really check out what you've done, right? And it's standardized and it's clear, and it allows, and that's the part of GitHub that I'm really focused on today. And then we'll get to the configuration management stuff in the future. And so in a similar way, what my product does from that aspect is allows a hard tech engineer, and you're right, I really hope to expand to everybody that GitHub doesn't really apply to.
Right.
All those sorts of engineers. And the best, broadest term, I call them hardware engineers. My co-founder calls them physics-based engineers. But really just ask yourself, if this engineer is building something you can physically touch, like a satellite, for example, it's still something you could technically touch, right? My product applies to them. And it allows for them to really upload all their work that is shareable or right down to that line and keep it in a standardized form. And then and this is where the only part AI comes in. It allows an employer to make sense of that and go, oh, wow, that was really cool. That's actually really relevant to what I'm doing, even though none of the keywords match, giving that engineer a better way to prove himself and an employer a better way to dissect that information without spending their expensive time, right? Usually the people on the employer side are actually like a CTO of a startup or the high-ranking hiring manager or like, the lead engineer or something whose time is already super valuable just keeping the project running.
For just kind of to understand, I don't have stats for the whole industry, but in Washington State, there's a guy named Stan Scholl who's paid by the state of Washington to track the number of open positions in the space sector. And I don't know what his number is today, but it's typically between 15 and 1900 open positions, because this industry is constantly starved for talent to fill positions that we need to make birds fly, to make these satellites fly. And so you sit with real engineers in between, there's the list. All the companies have it. Stoke has it. Blue Origin has it. Amazon Leo, of course, Starlink. Everybody has these lists of open roles, and then you could sit in the middle there before it gets to the hiring manager and say, oh, I've evaluated these 5 people. Really, only one is a rock star, 2 are adequate, and you want to ignore the other 2, right? That's the role that Real Engineers is going to play, right?
Yes, but there's some nuance to that. We don't directly tell you someone is better, someone's a rock star, because number one, like one of the things we don't do is we don't do the what I call Joshua is a nice guy analysis, right? We don't do the like my product won't say, hey, look, if I figured it out, I looked at his stuff. You're really going to enjoy having a beer and having Josh on your team, and he's going to be a great team player. We don't do that. What we really do is call scientific relevance. And so we match things that are verifiable and scientifically provable that, hey, this guy's background matches, this guy's scientific work he's done or his background matches with the problems or the skill set you're looking for. And that is verifiable down, no matter how much you don't personally like me, my output will still be verifiable in that case. So we don't directly tell you X is better than Y or this person's a rock star. We just say, hey, this guy's back because of X, Y, and Z reasons, they match more. And so, a good example of that, you said, about 1900, and they often have a hard time finding the niche talent. And sometimes it's because they're only looking for, for many reasons for this problem. It's like, well, we need someone else from the space industry, and we need someone else. It's like, well, there's only so many. But I actually break it down into the down to earth, like scientific concepts and problems they need. And then I match it again with the scientific concepts they need. So for example, it's not a space example, but with my radar work for the F-35, I work with the one-way radar range equation a lot, right? Like what is the distance coming in and how far away is that target? And so if you were to put my common keywords, LinkedIn profiles, and all that in front of a naval warfare specialist for submarines doing sonar algorithms, well, just on those keywords, unless the manager's really feeling like doing the research that day, they had all their coffee and all that stuff, and they connect the dots, they go like, wait a minute. Actually, if you just substitute the speed of light for the speed of sound, the equations are fundamentally the same, even though none of RF engineering and sonar, there's so many different keywords. And so you can see there, that's a obvious example of where the science matches, but the top level keywords, like my actual title was mission systems engineer, not sonar algorithm, right? All those things don't match, but the science matches. And so in that way, you can imagine how many of those things go unmatched. And so in that way, we match that underneath scientific concepts, which is verifiable. And then that sonar guy can say, hey, I don't really like Josh's personality, but that fact is still going to be true. And that's what we match and say, hey, so this is why number 1 and number 2 are a pretty good fit, because they're exactly the problem you're looking for.
I'm gonna highlight Dallas, and also shout out to Joe and John. Take a look. I put the link up there. Dallas Real Engineers is live, but Dallas comes from I don't know. I think he worked at Boeing for 600 or 700 years. I think he was there when they founded Boeing, if I remember right correctly. But he has hired quite a few people in his career. He's come on our show several times. I'm a big fan of Dallas. He knows that. And he now works at Stellar World and Offworld building hardware for the moon. So, his first question is the product available? And if not, when? So how do you want to answer that?
Yeah, we are accepting paid pilots right now. So it is not available to everybody that comes in. We hope to get there at some point. But right now, if you, just hit me up, we'll accept paid pilots. And that's where we are. We take every client in because we're still improving the core of our product, the scientific relevance. But yeah, it is available. Just have to ask you.
Yeah. full disclosure, I met Josh just maybe 3 weekends ago, at a hackathon. Wasn't my I did not like the hackathon. I learned some hard lessons the hardest possible way, but it was good. It was good for me, and I met the guy, and I'm like, oh, there's something really interesting here. So full transparency, we're going to sign one of our LOIs to support them because I think they're doing something interesting. So that's where we stand. I want to just be transparent about that, but yeah. So talk about the difference between uploading a resume to LinkedIn versus a project side, and I want to kind of bifurcate that. There's two paths in. There's if you're an engineer and if you're an employer. So Dallas is going to be interested in both of those answers.
Right. Yeah. We So to address the second part of your question, right now we're not a two-sided marketplace right now. We actually just take in employers, and they have a job opening, and let's say they do for example, one of our first customers, they were doing 6-hour interviews per engineer because they're a new startup. They just got funded, and they're all like, "Yeah, I'm not gonna mess up on my third or fourth engineer I'm hiring." And so you basically just make us your first part of your engineering process. And so the only way engineers get in today are they get an invite from that employer, and you make us the first part of the interview where they say, "Hey, this is the cool stuff I worked on." And so we help you get from, for this guy, he basically says, "Look, if you can get me down from doing 6-7-hour interviews to 5-7-hour interviews, you've kind of already paid for yourself and then some." So we're really just focused on the employer side right now, and hopefully, eventually we hope to get to the point where engineers like, "Oh, let me get ahead of the boat and fill it out early," which is partially what makes it, which is partially now going towards my ultimate vision of GitHub for hardware engineers.
Cool. Hopefully that answers Dallas's questions. Tom, did you have something?
Yeah, because I always try. I'm always trying to look at things at the 50,000-foot level.
Yeah.
And what's kind of emerging, listening to you, is really another way to problem solve. You're trying to, because everybody in their business and their entrepreneurial work, they have a burning problem that they're trying to solve. And in case of some companies, they have lots of little burning problems that they have to solve. And what you're trying to develop is a better way for everybody to connect and find a way to get those burning problems solved.
Yeah, that's right. I'm not trying to say resumes are bad or anything. I think they're a useful tool and they've served as a useful tool for a long time.
Yeah.
I think fundamentally what AI has with this emerging technology, and that's why I've focused on what can be verified. That's what real engineers is really for, the scientific congruence that can be verified. And that's a lot harder to get off of 4 bullet points, right? Again, going back to my sonar example, the moment I said my actual title at Lockheed Martin was actually mission systems engineer. What does that mean outside of Lockheed Martin? Right? No one can tell what that means. It means one thing, and I have friends that work at other companies, and they're like, "Oh, I have the same title," and they tell me about their job. It's like completely different. But wait, we have the same title, right? And so it really gets, it's not replacing the resume today. What it's really doing is adding another layer to add more information without adding the burden of, "Oh yeah, here's another book for you to read, Mr. Hiring Manager." Right. And so one of the best compliments one of my first customers gave me was, using your tool to read a candidate's profile for about 5 minutes felt like the first hour of the interview. And so, and if you've ever been in a big hardware engineering interview, the first hour is just like, "Okay, so you're an RF engineer. Okay, exactly what kind? Are you a signal analysis guy?" And you're just digging deep, like, okay, where do the matches happen? And we completely take that away. And so very well where someone fits and where someone does. And so the most exciting things for us have been the people that they were normally going to reject, but because of the real engineers profile go, "Oh my God, wait, that is something very close to what we do," even though none of the keywords match, and then they become on top of the list. Those have been my the things we're most proud of. So we're more like a supplement right now than really, it's like a secret ingredient to your sauce that makes it way better than it is a replacement for anything right now.
Mm-hmm. So how do you make money?
There you go.
Yeah, we make money by charging the employers. It's free for engineers.
Okay.
We have taken a lot of inspiration from some of because software has had this capability. That's the thing. Like, you guys talk about space, but to me, like the hardware engineering world as a whole, which space is a big part of, is always like 5 or 4 steps, a little bit behind software. And software has had this capability for a long time. There's companies like HackerRank, Carrot, GitHub, my favorite one, right? Like I said before, where a software engineer and even an employer can say, hey, HackerRank being a good example, look, we can't interview everybody. Some of you have good pedigree, some of you don't. I'm going to pay HackerRank money, and they're going to send you a test, and I don't do tests, but it's a much better way where a software engineer can prove, hey, look how good of a coder I am outside of my resume. And so we took a lot of inspiration from that model where an employer would pay us. Right now, we're charging about $3.99 to $4.99, and you basically get a link and saying, hey, 50 engineers that all look amazing on paper, please fill out your real engineer's profile. And then you hit that button and that 5-minute to 1 hour quote, and you figure out who those are. And we've been proud to say, like, we have changed the list, right? For our experiments, we go, okay, you don't have our product. Who are your top 10? And then you use us, and those top 10 changes, not because you like the person, but because of some, for us, it's been like a undeniable scientific fact or scientific congruence that really is relevant to that employer. That's really, really important.
And so let's dig into that for a second. So you went to a company, you said stack rank these, these are our top 3 out of these 10. You put them through your system, and you came up with a different top 3.
Yeah.
What happened then? Did they?
Yeah, one of my absolute favorite examples. So we were doing top 5. Okay. And we went with the thing. It's like, okay, you don't have to do 5 8-hour interviews. You can do 4 because of our thing. It's like, okay, you know what? But since so they paid for our product and they sent it to their top 20.
Okay.
And say good luck. And we were just saying, all right, this top 5. Are they going to be the same top 5? Right. That was part of the experiment. And so they figured out. And the guy who was like not even in the top 5, he was like top, I don't know, maybe like 9th or 10th. He uploaded a CAD file and a system of how he applied military standards, something 3.8, something, right? And he just showed how he applied it. And so my system caught that, hold on, one of your requirements for their robotics product, it had to survive a lot of vibration environments where it was going to be rocked a lot. Mm-hmm. And that was the one thing they were having trouble passing in their testing. And so the guy never put, I do vibration testing or anything. He said, look, here's a big application of my military standard, blah, 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 which turned out to be a military standard for vibration suspension testing for Humvees. Mm-hmm. Which was even a harder version of the problem they were solving. And so there were 0 keywords matching. And then so they went like, hold on, I was going to do 5 interviews, but I'm actually going to interview this guy. So we took him to the 6th spot, and they actually increased the number of interviews they were going to do because they're like, that is the problem I'm having today. And he's already solved it and applied it in a military setting. They're not a military company, so I can't let this guy pass. And so that's one of my favorite examples of how we changed it. And so he was, and we're happy to say that. I think that guy did get hired, and he was like, solve my problem right now. Apply that standard, get me past vibration testing.
Very cool. Very cool story.
Tom? Of course, our friend Dallas here wants to drill down just a little bit. Sure. Very basic. It says, when you say you charge the employer $3 to $4.99, what do they actually get for that?
They get to hit one button, and they get a curated list of who those top, however many you want out of us, top 10, top 15, and then a report for each saying, hey, this is how they fit the scientific relevance you're looking for. And so it really helps you make that decision. So you can think of a stack rank, a list that you can double click into to figure out, oh, wow, that's how he matches. And you can take the extra step of saying, okay, this is how I can poke into them to see if they're full of nonsense or not. Yeah. Again, very similar. Again, my inspiration being HackerRank. That's basically what HackerRank does. They send them a test, and then the employer gets, hey, here are the people who got an A+. And so it saves them time, and so they can do less interviews.
You don't have a lot of individuals that have filled out profiles yet. So in Dallas's case, he would have to send the individuals to your system, upload a profile, do the work of setting up the profile, and then you would evaluate them. You can't just evaluate them in the wild, right? They have to go through and set up.
Yeah, because we're not scraping the websites and things like that. And so it's actually, at first we thought that was a negative too, but we realized, like, hold on, even if we had like 20,000 engineers on the platform, if Dallas doesn't have the 6 engineers he cares about, my platform's useless. Yeah. Right. So it becomes a way to, again, like, we found our best use case is not like in the beginning of the hire process or not at the end. Is right before you figure out who do I spend my valuable time interviewing. So if you just make us your first phase, like right after the binary outputs, like, hey, are you willing to move to Washington? No. Okay. That guy is, yeah, right. Right after that, when you have that list, that's when you ask them to fill out a real engineer's profile. So relative to flying them out to your company and interviewing your personal time, that's actually less of an ask, and it shortens the list. Yeah.
To be really clear, Dallas, they are not a recruiter. I actually thought they were a recruiter organization when I first met Joshua. I thought they were a recruiter. They're definitely not. So they're not looking for candidates. That's not their role. Their job, what they're going to do is when you have found 5, 10, 15, 20, 300, they evaluate and shrink the list once you put in. Is that clear, Dallas?
Yeah. That's
So in other words, the people who are putting the list in and identified the candidates are the same people that have always been doing it.
Yes. Yeah.
At your customers,
Right. So at a big company, that would be HR, but again, just like in HackerRank, just like HackerRank,
trying to get the process. So
yeah.
Good.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
Dallas, I would really recommend just talking directly to Josh. I put his stuff into LinkedIn, and I put his LinkedIn link and the company link in the list. But
and that's so the list is honestly one of the problems we solve, right? Because one of our first companies that worked for us, they put a job on LinkedIn in the first 24 hours, they have 300 applicants. Yeah. Right. So, yeah.
We don't have a lot of time left. I'm going to do my PSA, and we're going to do your crystal ball. But I want to talk about interns and intern programs. So about it. Be short in your answer, but talk a little bit about what you're doing with interns a little.
Yeah, that's been a surprising startup, not a pivot, but like a discovery from our customers that happened very recently. And people are willing to pay more for it because we realize people, for most companies, would a useful intern be amazing? And there'd be, but do they want to spend even more of their personal time trying to find that intern and figure it out? No. So what we do is we basically hold a hackathon, something software has done for a long time now, but for hardware engineers. And so the company comes with us with like a generic version of the problem they're already having, a technical problem. And so for about right now, for about $1,000, we go out to your local universities and hold a hackathon. It takes about 2 to 3 weeks, and we make this, hey, this is the problem this company is having. And then the interns compete saying, hey, here's my design. This is how I would solve it, right? It could be CAD files, electrical diagrams, everything. Just give us, in engineering terms, how you'd solve the problem. And that turns down to like almost a gigabyte worth of engineering materials. And so that's when we use, like, again, fully all technically verifiable to pick the top 3, or like, all right, these are the guys who won numbers 1, 2, and 3. And then we throw in a little bit of spice in there saying, hey, this is the most creative solution. This is the most out there solution, or things like that. And yeah, so you get an intern who's useful the first day, has already solved your problems. And engineers really seem to love it too, because it's like, thank God I don't have to make another resume. And I think one of my proudest moments, one of our first ones, a guy with a non-engineering degree won. I know you like that, which really blew us away. And we were so surprised. We were all like, hey, is our system working? But no, that founder is like, he solved my problem using the exact sensors I was looking for. Oh my God, I don't care this guy doesn't have an engineering degree. So, and would that guy have ever gotten an internship without us?
Right. Right. So two things here. Just thanks, Dallas. Great. I'm glad that you appreciate it. And then also, Jason, once a candidate is in your system, do they have an option to update? So I think
Yes.
that's super important.
Yeah, it's yours. It's not mine. It's not Real Engineers. Just like a GitHub profile is yours and the content within is yours. I'm
Yep.
just the stewards of it. And you also get a link and you get to share with other employers too in the future. So once you do it, unless you do more work, you're welcome to update it because the profiles are completely dynamic and it's yours. Share with as many employers as you like.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
And your data is yours, not ours. Yeah.
Yep.
Right. Okay. On that, we have our final thing that we like to ask. I like to put on your thinking cap, you get your crystal ball, and given how you're working within the context of this industry, what are your predictions? What does 5 years from now look like, and what does 25 years from now look like?
Right. I don't actually consider my industry to be hiring or HR. I consider my industry to be hardware engineering or hard tech.
Yep. Understood.
And so in 5 years, I don't think it will make as big of a public splash, but I really do think hardware engineering, like making circuit diagrams, CAD files, designs, documents, and things like that, is going to have its vibe coding moment. Like how vibe coding has really changed software engineers. I'm really looking, and there are already tools out there that, text to CAD. Hey, I want to make this kind of spec differential gear, and the CAD file comes in. And so that, I'm really looking forward to that. I think that's going to really help my business because now, it might not even, it democratizes hardware engineering like software engineers have always been democratized. Like anyone with a computer can do it. Now, anyone with a computer can do mechanical engineering. You don't have to buy all the parts. You can just design it and show it. And so I'm really excited for that in the next 5 years. I think that'll happen in the next 5 years. And then in the next 25 years, I think one of the things I'm very interested in seeing is I believe universities will probably lose a lot of their power. And you see this you already see this in the software world. No one laughs. Like you see coding dojos, for example,
Right. Yeah.
right? Where you don't even have to go get a software engineering degree. Just get the coding dojo and then show on GitHub, look what I made. And there was a story, I think SpaceX hired a 14-year-old straight out of college because his GitHub and what he made was so amazing they didn't care. Right?
Yep.
You don't hear that many as many stories in the hardware engineering world. It's like, no, I'm sorry, if you didn't get a mechanical engineering degree, we're not even going to really consider you. So, and universities have always had such a monopoly on knowledge, and they have lost it since the beginning of the internet. And the only thing they kind of have left is like, look, trust our credentials. We made this guy go through the loops.
Right.
And so I think companies like mine, HackerRank, Kaggle, Carrot, and a lot of these other companies, I'm not sure how it will affect all industries, but in my industry, as things like mine keep coming up where someone can show without credentials, here is proof that I'm a good engineer, that's undeniable, just like the story with the intern, how a non-engineer won the first hackathon.
Mm-hmm.
I think that'll be very interesting what universities look like 25 years from now.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So real engineer stamp of approval if they've got the chops. I like that.
It's not, we don't stamp them, right? It's your own verifiable metrics against that engineer. We're just the medium.
Yeah. But I like the comment from our friend at spacetv.net. He said, sounds like the people who build the first space elevator will come together via real engineers.
I think that might be true.
I think one of my favorite quotes about that was actually like Elon in one of his podcasts said, I named Tesla after Nikola Tesla. And I wonder if Tesla was born today and applied to my company, would I interview him? And he went, probably not. Because we have a conventional background and AC current wasn't a thing. And if you were to talk about it, everyone would be like, what are you talking about, dude? Goodbye. Yeah. Right. In fact, that's why he became an entrepreneur. In my dream world, the future Nikola Tesla would be like, no, here's what I built in my garage. And everyone would go, I don't care you have a college degree.
Yeah. Yeah. Right on. All right. Thanks a lot, sir. Appreciate it.
And on that, Joshua, Ahmed, founder of Real Engineers. So I wish you fame and fortune. I think you've got a really interesting idea, and you're going to go places with it. I
Thank
just
you very much, guys.
like this. Hopefully, have you on again sometime, and you can show us your progress.
Thank you very much, guys. Have a great one.
Okay, nice to see you. Come again. Now, Michael, before we go, I understand you have a PSA for us.
I'm going to be really, really brief. About a week and a half ago, a very large Japanese conglomerate came to us and asked us questions about the future of the lunar elevator, specifically focused on materials. So this is Naito Denko, NITTO.com. And they wanted to understand our material requirements. It was their group down in San Diego, Oceanside, that was looking for the future. What do we need? I told them unobtainium. And what do we need for the lunar elevator? Turns out it was a great conversation. We've got some other conversations coming, but as a result of that conversation, we're going to host a very informal, but I think dense packed meeting. We're calling it a forum. The full name is the Cislunar Economy Requirements Forum. So bringing in together about a dozen space companies to talk about what they need now, what they need in 5 years, and what they need in 10 years. I think it's going to be a kind of a big deal. Definitely shout out to Dallas. I want you to be there. It's going to be Tuesday. Because we're having to deal with Osaka time, it starts at 8 a.m. in Japan, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. And because we might have some folks from both Lisbon and Lagos, it'll be 1 o'clock in the morning for them.
Right. So for Japan, it's actually 8 a.m. Wednesday.
It is, yes. And for Europe, it's also Wednesday, but for America, it's Tuesday. So that's what we got. So you'll find those links on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/liftport, and look for it in our LinkedIn channel as well. Love to have you there. I can't, Jason, I can't announce that one yet. I know I want to, but I'm not going to. So we may have some interesting surprise guests, but I'm not going to put them on the spot yet because I haven't got them confirmed. But going to be a good show. Definitely want people to come. So that's it. That's all I got. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Thanks, man. I'll help you promote it too any way I can on my different channels. Okay. Thursday, we'll be back with all the latest news, maybe a guest, some hard-hitting commentary, and of course, sprinkle with the occasional tomfoolery. It'll be 8 p.m. Eastern, as always. And for Sean Key, for Michael Lane, I remain Thomas Andrew Olson. Keep watching the skies.